Buenas tardes.
Good afternoon.
Con la bienvenida a los corresponsales extranjeros presentes.
The foreign correspondents present,
we
we begin the press conference on the current situation and the aggression of the United States. Here with us, 25 foreign correspondents of 14 media of 9 countries and representatives of the national press. This conference is being transmitted by Cuba Vision, International Cuba Vision, and the Caribbean Channel. So, I give the floor to the member of the Political Bureau and Minister of Foreign Affairs, Bruno Rodriguez Parrilla. Minister, you have the floor. Good afternoon. On July 11th, last Sunday, we saw in Cuba the combined impact of increased cases and disease of the pandemic COVID-19, the tension over the national health system, its effect in the life of all the people, thousands of Cuban citizens and their families, and also of the lack of things provoked by the economic difficulties, especially of the last 2 years, aggravated by the strengthening of the blockade against Cuba and the impact of the pandemic in the international economic situation. The economic problems that our country is facing have different dimensions of objective nature. They have an impact in our health system, in the supply of the electrical system, although we've had some problems related with these factors and the limitations of these years in fuel maintenance. They have an impact in the food and medicine, in the long lines, in the prices, and the difficulties that our people knows very well, because it lives it every day. It is well known that the government of the United States identified the impact of the virus COVID-19 and the pandemic as an opportunity to strengthen the blockade with political motivations and apply what they called maximum pressure measures to reinforce the aggression against our country. It has been a cruel, opportunistic attempt of using the pandemic to choke our economy. We also know that the government of the United States, historically and in the last years, has allocated hundreds of millions of dollars to interfere in the internal affairs of Cuba, to try unuseful to create a political opposition, even generating disorder, instability with a failed purpose of fracturing the constitutional order, the social consensus, the stability, tranquility, security conditions of the harmony that leaves our people. For that purpose, it has used high technology instruments, sophisticated instruments. They have a control of all of them, and they have done it to take advantage of the harsh social conditions generated in the planet, the pandemic, and in our case, using lies, using manipulation of data in the attempt to mobilize, in the attempt to manipulate the people. It is a design with political ends in which the United States has worked for a long time and has increased its efforts and financing in the last years. In the presentation of the resolution against the blockade against Cuba approved in the United Nations on June 23rd, in the speech, it was warned, and I quote, the United States, and I quote, use resources, social laboratories, and high-technology instruments in a campaign directed to discredit Cuba through the use of lies and manipulation of data. On June 23rd, we had information, and it was actually evident for those who follow the social networks and data, that date we had a developing communicational operation. The government of the United States even submitted to extreme conditions its position regarding the so-called revision of the policy towards Cuba, and it has inherited obstacles imposed by the government of Trump with the purpose of preventing this revision. So, U.S. spokesperson were talking about sensitive topics for the lives of the people, like the unilateral coercive measures regarding the travels in both directions related to the remittances, or with the consular services that affect the Cubans that actually live abroad Cuba, to an operation that contradicted those statements. In that speech on June 23rd, it was said, and I quote, some people dream of provoking the social chaos, disorder, violence, and death. It is not weird, because it is a political instrument already used against other countries with disastrous consequences. On June 23rd, that campaign was already undergoing, including calls on violence, terrorist aggression to the authorities, and the assassination of the President of the Republic. And also, it was warned that day, some few think of creating a migration flow between Cuba and the United States. It is a dangerous bet, over we have warned the government of the United States, which is compelled legally and morally to honor the migration agreements, especially regarding visas. It is a sensitive topic. End of the quote. And we have warned yesterday, and I say it again, to the government of the United States. So what we see today is the dilemma, is the alternative between the right of an independent state, sovereign state, of a nation, of a people, to exercise its right to self-determination, to enjoy of its human rights without foreign intervention, without interference in its internal affairs. The alternative between assuring itself peace, social cohesion, calm, citizen security, stability, and in the face of the attempt, illegal, immoral attempt of a superpower of judging the rebel island, of trying to determine our destinies. Among those purposes and the acts of a superpower that threatens peace and security in the international arena, the independence and the sovereignty of all the states of the planet, without any exception, and that violates the freedom of its own citizens with the political purpose of creating a change of regime, of altering the constitutional order that our people voted overwhelmingly in a recent referendum, universal and democratic referendum yesterday. And in previous days, U.S. spokesperson, U.S. politicians have expressed with cynicism, hypocrisy, and political manipulation. The President Joe Biden issued a communique in which, I quote, he asks the regime of Havana to listen to the people, to the Cuban people, and to alleviate its needs. He even talks about the economic situation of the country. President Biden and the government of the United States should first to listen to its own citizens, that most of them talk about the blockade against Cuba and in defense of their own freedom to travel to any place of the world and to receive free, exact information. He should listen to the international community that demands every year with a board that we see the vote of each country and with debates that leave isolated the government of the United States to lift the embargo. He should listen the Cubans that live in the United States and in all latitudes, whose families suffer manipulation of the migration issues and the application of policies that affect the relation among the peoples, the contacts, travels, and